Hello, dear dreamer, and welcome to Whispers of the Night. Tonight, let's step quietly into a village that rests beneath the soft shadow of mountains, where the lake mirrors the sky in gentle, shimmering light. Imagine walking along cobblestone streets, the air carrying the faint scent of pine and evening flowers, lanterns glowing softly as if each one holds a tiny secret. The mountain stands still, protective and calm, and the water laps quietly against wooden docks, whispering stories only the wind can carry. As we wander slowly, breathing in the serenity, I find myself wondering, from which peaceful corner of the world are you listening tonight? If it feels right, you can share your city or country in the comments, and let this quiet moment connect us. Let your eyes follow the gentle ripples, and allow your heart to settle into the unhurried rhythm of this sleepy village. In this place, time feels soft, moments stretch like warm silk, and the world seems to pause just enough for us to notice the quiet magic hiding in reflections, shadows, and the tender glow of lights. So let's begin, letting the calm of Hallstatt wrap around us like a gentle, familiar blanket. Let's drift together into a place where time moves slowly and the world feels soft and safe. Close your eyes and take a slow, deep breath. Let the air fill your chest, and then let it flow out gently, carrying away the busyness of your day. Imagine the quiet hum of a village tucked beneath towering, gentle mountains. Feel the calm evening air brushing against your skin, carrying the faint scent of pine, fresh earth, and delicate flowers. Lanterns glow warmly along the cobbled streets, their light flickering softly like tiny, comforting stars as you breathe in and out. Notice how your body feels heavier with each exhale, settling deeper into calm. Let your mind drift with the slow rhythm of lapping water against the shore. You might hear the faint rustle of leaves or the soft call of a bird returning to rest. These sounds are gentle reminders that the world is safe and still tonight, and you can simply be if you haven't yet. Consider softly tapping that subscribe button so we can wander together into more nights like this, exploring quiet villages, sparkling lakes, and gentle skies. Feel free to rest here in the calm of this moment, letting your thoughts float away like clouds above the mountains of Hallstatt. Your body grows lighter, your mind slower, and your heart feels wrapped in warmth and serenity. Take another deep breath, slow and steady, and let your imagination wander to the mirrored lake, the lanterns reflecting perfectly on still waters, the village waiting patiently, as though it has been holding this quiet magic just for you. Let the soft glow of Hallstatt guide you into the story that waits, where every reflection, every gentle breeze, and every whisper of night will carry you further into calm. Let your body soften, your mind float, and let us begin together. the sleeping village of Hallstatt. Mirror of the lake. The first light of morning drifted softly over the village of Hallstatt, spilling in pale golden streams across the cobbled streets and the colorful rooftops that clung gently to the mountainside. The air was still, carrying the faint scent of pine from the surrounding slopes and the sweet, earthy aroma of damp earth from the lake's edge. It was the kind of morning that felt as though it had paused just to breathe, and in the quiet heart of this small village, a little girl named Lena stirred awake. Lena had hair the color of warm chestnut, and her eyes held a gentle curiosity that always seemed to seek the hidden corners of the world. Today, as she stretched beneath her soft woolen blanket, she could hear the lake just beyond her window, its surface catching the first blush of sunrise and reflecting it like a mirror of molten gold. She listened for a moment, letting the soft lapping of the water and the distant calls of morning birds fill the room. Even the faint creak of the floorboards beneath her grandmother's house seemed to join in the chorus of waking sounds, as though the whole village was stretching and yawning, waking slowly into the new day. Sliding her bare feet onto the warm wooden floor, Lena moved quietly to the window. From there, she could see the lake shimmering gently, its surface smooth except for the occasional ripple that caught the light and scattered it in tiny, sparkling fragments. But today, something seemed different. Lena blinked, leaning closer. The reflection of the village in the water shimmered in a way that made her pause. It was brighter than usual, almost as if it had its own pulse, a quiet breathing that seemed alive. The houses, their wooden shutters painted in cheerful blues, yellows, and reds, seemed to lean slightly toward the water, and their mirrored forms danced lightly on the lake's surface. Lena felt a soft thrill of wonder, a gentle curiosity that made her toes tingle. Her grandmother, a kind woman with silver hair tied in a neat braid and eyes that twinkled like morning dew, came softly into the room, carrying a steaming mug of herbal tea. "Good morning, Lena," she said, her voice like a warm blanket wrapped around the edges of the day. She set the mug on the windowsill and rested a hand lightly on her granddaughter's shoulder. "The lake is special today, isn't it?" Lena nodded, her eyes never leaving the water. "Grandma, it looks different, like it's alive." Her grandmother smiled, settling into a chair beside her. "Ah, the lake has always had a gentle magic. Hallstatt itself has a way of keeping quiet secrets. Little whispers from the past and the present held just beneath the surface. There are stories, stories of this village and the lake. Tales of people long ago who found peace and wonder here because the water listened to their hearts." Lena leaned against her grandmother, her voice soft with awe. "Stories, yes," her grandmother said, her fingers tracing the rim of her cup. "Stories of lanterns that float on still nights, of fog that sings through the mountains, and of the reflections that sometimes show more than what we see. If you watch closely, you might notice things others miss, the little movements, the shimmering lights, the gentle calls of the lake itself, its patient magic." Lena, quiet, comforting, and always waiting for someone who notices. Lena's eyes widened, and she felt a warm excitement bubbling within her chest, gentle and calm. At the same time, she thought of all the mornings she had spent wandering the streets and docks, and how she had never truly looked at the reflections in the water with the care her grandmother spoke of. Today, she would try. She slipped her feet into soft leather. Shoes pulled her cardigan around her shoulders and stepped out into the soft morning air. The village greeted her with a gentle hush, the cobblestones warm beneath her steps, the soft scent of bread and fresh pastries drifting from the baker's shop, mingling with the faint, salty temps of the lake. The water stretched wide and calm. Beside her, the mirrored houses catching every ripple, every faint tilt of the mountains. Lena paused often, watching a shadow here, a glimmer there, noticing how every reflection seemed to hold a story of its own. The fishermen were already at the docks, their boats bobbing gently, nets coiled neatly on the decks. They waved to Lena, their voices low and friendly, carrying a calm rhythm that matched the day's slow unfolding. "Good morning, Lena," one of them said, his hands rough from work, but his smile soft. Lena waved back, a small smile playing across her lips. She lingered a moment by the water, watching a single fish break the surface, sending delicate ripples outward that made the village's reflection tremble in 1,000 tiny fragments. The sight made her breath catch in delight. Soft and wonder dash filled as she wandered through the winding streets. Lena noticed other villagers going about their gentle routines. A baker carried a basket of warm bread to a neighboring shop, the scent of fresh dough drifting like a gentle cloud. A mother walked with her children, their laughter quiet but bright, bouncing across the narrow lanes. A painter set up a small easel near the lake, capturing the mirrored scene in soft, flowing strokes. Everywhere Lena looked, the reflections in windows, water, and even polished doors seemed to echo life back at her, quietly, gently, almost like they were sharing a secret language only someone very observant could hear. She stopped by a small fountain in the village square, where the water bubbled lightly over smooth stones, and watched the ripples spread. Each tiny wave carried with it a reflection of the sky, the mountains, and the little houses that leaned toward the water as if listening. Lena felt a soft pull in her chest, a gentle tug toward the lake's center. She crouched at the edge, her fingers brushing the cool surface, watching as the sunlight danced on the water like 1,000 tiny lanterns. A glimmer caught her Aja faint, flickering light beneath the surface, almost as if the lake itself were trying to speak. "Hello, little one," a voice called softly, and Lena looked up to see her grandmother approaching, carrying a basket of wildflowers she had picked along the mountain trails. Her silver braid glinted in the sun, and her eyes held that quiet twinkle of warmth and knowing. "The lake likes to show you things, if you watch carefully," she said, setting the basket beside Lena. "Patience, observation, and a gentle heart, those are what the lake responds to." Lena nodded, leaning over the water again. The glimmer beneath the surface seemed to shimmer more brightly, as though the lake recognized her curiosity and welcomed it. She felt a sense of calm curiosity, a gentle invitation to look closer, to wonder quietly, without hurry or worry. The water rippled with soft, lazy movements, carrying the mirrored images of the mountains, the houses, and the distant clouds across its surface. Lena imagined tiny stories unfolding in each reflection, people moving in slow, peaceful rhythms, their laughter soft and echoing, their daily lives gentle and unhurried. The warmth of the sun touched her cheeks, and she could hear the faint, melodious call of birds high above in the pine trees. The village itself seemed to breathe with the rhythm of the lake, slow and steady, a heartbeat that Lena could feel if she listened closely. She let her fingers trail lightly over the water, watching as the small ripples stretched outward, touching every mirrored corner of Hallstatt in a soft, endless dance. Her grandmother sat beside her on the smooth stone edge, pulling a soft scarf around her shoulders. "Sometimes," she whispered, "the lake shows us more than the present. It reflects who we are, what we hope for, and even a little of the dreams waiting for us. If you watch long enough, you might see things that only appear when the world is quiet and patient." Lena's eyes widened, and she felt her heart fill with a warm, gentle wonder. She had always loved the lake, but now it seemed more like a living friend than just water. It held stories, memories, and secrets, all wrapped in its quiet, shimmering depths. She leaned closer once more, peering into the glimmering center, and for a moment, the reflections danced differently, as if acknowledging her presence. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, a faint pulse of light that seemed to echo a heartbeat. Lena felt a gentle thrill knot, the kind that raced or scared, but the kind that warmed her chest and made her feel alive with quiet curiosity. She imagined the lake breathing with her, sharing its slow rhythm, inviting her to linger and watch, to imagine and to dream alongside it. Hours drifted softly by, though Lena barely noticed. The village moved around her in gentle, deliberate motions, a fisherman adjusting a net, a baker dusting flour onto bread, children chasing each other with soft laughter that echoed in the quiet air. The mirrored houses seemed to lean closer, toward the water with every movement, reflecting a life that was calm, rich with small joys, and full of quiet stories. Lena's heart felt light, and she understood, even if only in a small, sleepy way, that Hallstatt's charm lay in its reflections, not just the ones in the water, but the reflections of kindness, peace, and curiosity that lived quietly in every person who called the village home. As the sun began to lower, softening the edges of the mountains with its golden haze, Lena leaned over the water one last time. The glimmer beneath the surface pulsed faintly, a gentle reminder that the day was drawing to a close, but the magic of Hallstatt was steady and enduring, waiting patiently for tomorrow. She felt the pull of the lake, soft and inviting, a quiet promise of discovery and wonder yet to come. Lena stood slowly, brushing her cardigan and taking a deep breath of the cool evening air, scented faintly with pine and the gentle warmth of sun-soaked stones. She looked once more at the mirrored village, letting her eyes trace every color, every shadow, every ripple that danced across the surface. With a heart full of calm wonder and a mind filled with gentle curiosity, she walked back along the cobblestone streets, the soft rhythm of her steps mingling with the quiet sounds of the lake and the village. And as evening settled into a tender, glowing hush, Lena felt the lake's soft invitation linger in her thoughts, a whisper of something quietly magical, patiently waiting for her to notice again in the days and mornings yet to come. The village, bathed in the last blush of sunlight, seemed to sigh with calm contentment, reflecting the gentle wonder of life itself. And Lena walked home with a sense of quiet anticipation, ready for tomorrow's gentle adventures by the shimmering, whispering lake. Whispers beneath the mountains. The morning arrived quietly, with the softest hint of dawn brushing the peaks of the mountains around Hallstatt. Lena stirred under her blanket, stretching her arms slowly as the first golden light crept through her window, spilling across the wooden floor and warming the cozy corners of her room. Her chestnut hair fell softly around her face as she blinked awake, and for a moment she simply listened, letting the calm sounds of the village morning settle into her senses. The lake lay still, a silken mirror catching the pale light of early day, and Lena could almost hear it humming gently, as if reminding her of the shimmer she had noticed yesterday. Her curiosity stirred within her, quiet and steady, pulling her toward the world beyond the window. She slid her feet into her worn, soft leather shoes and tugged her cardigan around her shoulders. It was a cool morning, the kind of morning that made the air smell faintly of pine and wet earth, with the soft perfume of flowers blooming in hidden corners along the lake. The village streets were calm, the cobblestones warm from the first touches of sunlight. Fishermen were already setting off in their boats, their movements slow and deliberate, nets coiled neatly and oars dipping quietly into the mirrored water. Lena stepped outside and inhaled the crisp mountain air, feeling it fill her lungs with gentle energy, calm yet alive, as though the mountains themselves had been waiting for her to notice them. Her feet carried her along the familiar path by the lake, past the houses painted in soft shades of blue, ochre, and rose, each one reflected perfectly in the still water, and Lena paused to admire how the mirrored image seemed almost to breathe with the rhythm of the morning. The air carried faint whispers, soft and melodic, curling around her ears and brushing against her skin. Lena tilted her head, curious, wondering if it was just the wind weaving through the pine trees, or something a little more magical. The whispers rose and fell like a lullaby, subtle enough to be comforting, and Lena felt her chest warm with a gentle sense of wonder. She decided to follow the sound, stepping carefully along a narrow path that wound away from the village and into the mountains. The morning mist curled around the tall green pines, thick yet friendly, like a soft blanket wrapping the forest in mystery. Sunlight filtered through the mist in gentle golden shafts, illuminating the path in soft, shifting patterns. Each step Lena took released the faint scent of pine needles and moss, and she noticed the quiet crunch of twigs and leaves beneath her shoes. The whispers seemed to rise and fall with the wind, guiding her onward without urgency, as though the mountains themselves were inviting her to explore slowly, to notice everything along the way. After walking for a while, Lena discovered a narrow opening between two moss-covered boulders. Peering through, she caught sight of a small waterfall, hidden from the main path, cascading gently into a crystal-clear pool below. Tiny flowers dotted the rocks and edges of the pool, glowing in soft, delicate colors that Lena had never seen before. Pale blues, gentle pinks, and subtle violets that seemed to shimmer in the dappled sunlight. The water sparkled, carrying the reflections of the mountains, the sky, and the blossoms, twinkling like stars suspended in the quiet heart of the forest. Lena's eyes widened, and she felt a soft, warm thrill of discovery. She knelt beside the pool, dipping her fingers into the cool, smooth water, and watched as the ripples carried her reflection outward, blending with the shimmering reflections. of the waterfall and the flowers. As she lingered there, Lena noticed a figure approaching slowly along the path. An old woman moved with careful, deliberate steps, her long silver hair tucked beneath a soft scarf and a gentle smile resting upon her lined but kind face. In her hands, she carried a small basket filled with herbs and wildflowers, their scents mingling with the cool mountain air. Her eyes, bright and steady, seemed to hold the knowledge of many quiet years spent among these hills. Lena stood, brushing her cardigan and smiling shyly. "Good morning, little one," the woman said, in a voice as soft as the mist around them. "You found a special place. Not many come here so quietly." Lena's curiosity brightened. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "I've never seen flowers like these, and the water, it seems, alive." The herbalist chuckled softly, setting her basket on a nearby rock. "Ah yes, the mountain has its ways of showing life in quiet forms. These flowers are shy, and the pool, well, it reflects more than just the light. It shows the calm of those who notice it, the patience of those who move gently. You have walked here slowly and kindly, and the mountain listens to that." Lena's eyes softened, and she knelt beside the herbs, inhaling their faint, earthy aroma. "It feels peaceful here, like the world has slowed down," she said. The herbalist nodded. "Exactly, that is the mountain's gift. If you move with care, if you notice the small things, the world will whisper to you. You'll hear songs in the wind, see dances in the light, and find stories in the flowers. Everything has its own quiet voice, waiting for someone to listen." Lena reached for a small cluster of glowing flowers, her fingers brushing the petals. With gentle care, each one felt velvety and soft, the colors shifting subtly in the morning sun. She placed them in her small satchel, careful not to disturb the delicate blossoms. The reflection of the waterfall in the pool seemed to shimmer more brightly, as if acknowledging her presence. Tiny ripples stretched across the surface, carrying the mirrored image of the waterfall, the glowing flowers, and the mountains into a slow, unbroken dance of light. Lena watched for a long moment, feeling the calm rhythm settle in her chest, a quiet happiness that made her heart feel both wide and soft. The herbalist motioned for Lena to follow her a little further, along a narrow, winding path that rose gently through the trees. Birds fluttered overhead, their wings brushing softly against the mist, and the light shifted around them, casting golden speckles on the forest floor. Lena noticed every detail, the curve of the branches, the texture of the moss, the faint shimmer of dew on the grass. Each step was slow and deliberate, allowing her to feel the gentle hum of life all around her. "You see," the herbalist said, "the mountain responds to those who walk patiently. It does not rush, it does not demand. It simply exists, and in its presence, you can hear its whispers." Lena listened, tilting her head as the wind carried a soft susurration through the pine needles. The sound was almost like a gentle song, too faint to follow exactly, but steady and comforting, wrapping around her like a warm blanket. She smiled, feeling her curiosity deepen, knowing there were more secrets tucked into the folds of the hills, waiting for those willing to notice. Eventually, the path curved back toward the village, and Lena paused for one last look at the waterfall, the flowers, and the pool. The water reflected the sky in a perfect mirror, and in its depths, She could see faint flickers of color that seemed to shift with every tiny ripple. It was as if the mountain and the lake were holding a conversation, just for her, a gentle story told through light and water. Lena knelt briefly to touch the surface again, letting her fingers trail through the cool, smooth ripples, feeling the subtle pulse of life that lingered there. The herbalist stood beside her, her eyes twinkling. "Remember, Lena," she said, softly, "the magic is not just in the lake, or in the flowers, or even in the mountains. It is in noticing, in listening, and in moving with a gentle heart. Every step you take in calmness carries you closer to understanding. And tomorrow, if you choose to wander again, you may find even more wonders waiting." Lena nodded, a sense of serene anticipation spreading through her chest. She stood and brushed her satchel gently, careful not to disturb the flowers she had collected. The path back to the village felt warmer, lighter, as though the mountain itself had eased her steps. Birds sang soft, winding melodies, and the morning mist had begun to lift, leaving traces of sparkling dew on the ferns and moss. Along the way, when she reached the familiar streets of Hallstatt, the sun had climbed a little higher, casting warm patches of light across the cobbled stones, and the lake shimmered gently, reflecting the mountains and the village in serene perfection. Lena paused at the water's edge, letting her fingers brush the cool surface once more. She noticed the faint glimmer beneath the surface, the same gentle pulse she had seen before, almost as if the lake itself were smiling at her, acknowledging the quiet adventure she had shared with the mountains. She walked slowly past the familiar houses, their wooden shutters painted in soft pastels, and waved to neighbors tending to their small gardens or finishing their morning chores. The village hummed with a calm rhythm, the subtle clatter of dishes, the faint laughter of children, and the soft calls of birds blending into a gentle symphony of home. Lena's footsteps carried her to a quiet bench by the dock, where she sat and watched the water shimmer, the reflections of the mountains and clouds merging with the flickering colors of the flowers she had gathered. For a long, peaceful moment, she simply breathed, listening to the soft sounds of the village and the mountain whispers mingling in the air. The lake's gentle pulse seemed to resonate with her heartbeat, and she felt a quiet certainty that the magic of Hallstatt was more than just its beauty, was a slow, steady rhythm that welcomed those who moved carefully, listened patiently, and noticed the world with gentle eyes. As the afternoon sun began to tilt toward the mountains, Lena rose, brushing off her cardigan and stretching her arms slowly. She looked back at the hidden waterfall, imagining the soft, twinkling reflections of the pool and the glowing flowers tucked away in their secret mountain home. Tomorrow, she thought, she would return, perhaps follow a new path, listen more closely to the whispers of the wind, and discover the deeper connections between the mountains and the lake. The day had been soft, slow, and full of quiet wonder, leaving her heart both calm and curious, ready to rest beneath the gentle glow of evening dot. With one last glance at the lake's mirrored surface, Lena stepped along the familiar cobblestones of Hallstatt, feeling the village's heartbeat in tune with her own. Every reflection, every ripple, and every shimmer in the water carried the memory of the mountain's whispers, a secret story for those who took the time to notice. She carried this quiet magic with her as she walked, a gentle warmth spreading from her chest to her fingertips, leaving a soft, lingering sense of calm curiosity. And as the village began to settle under the warm afternoon light, Lena's thoughts drifted naturally toward the next day, wondering what other hidden wonders the mountains and lake would share with her. In the slow, patient rhythm the village of lanterns evening settled softly over Hallstatt, draping the village in a warm, golden glow that made the mountains and lake look like they were floating in a gentle dream. The sun had dipped behind the peaks, leaving streaks of pink and lavender across the sky, and the lake mirrored the colors with a quiet, serene perfection. A gentle breeze brushed over the water, carrying the faint scent of pine and wildflowers from the slopes above. Lanterns carefully hung along the docks, and the winding streets flickered to life one by one, casting pools of soft, golden light across the cobblestones. Their reflections danced in the lake, multiplying the glow and giving the water the appearance of holding hundreds of tiny stars, each one shimmering in time with the gentle lapping of the waves. Lena stepped out of her small, cozy home, her cardigan wrapped snugly around her shoulders, and took a deep, slow breath of the evening air. Her chestnut hair glimmered faintly in the lantern light, and her eyes sparkled with quiet curiosity. She had spent the day wandering the mountains and discovering the hidden waterfall, and now, as the village transitioned into its calm, glowing night, Lena felt a gentle excitement for the quiet magic that often came alive in Hallstatt at twilight. She wandered slowly down the cobbled streets, letting the soft echoes of her footsteps blend with the faint hum of life around her. Every house she passed seemed to tell its own story. Wooden shutters, painted in gentle pastel colors, reflected the lantern light differently, some catching the glow in soft pools, others casting long, delicate shadows across the cobblestones. She noticed the gentle creak of a door as it swung open and closed, the soft chatter of neighbors sharing a quiet evening greeting, and the faint aroma of freshly baked bread drifting from the bakery on the corner. Each detail was small, yet together they formed a tapestry of life, comforting and familiar, yet tinged with a subtle sense of wonder. Lena slowed her pace, letting her eyes linger on each window and doorway, imagining the quiet stories unfolding. Inside, each one reflected back in the soft lantern light outside, near the docks. She spotted a small group of children playing quietly, their laughter soft and melodic, almost like the gentle chime of bells. Lena smiled and paused to watch, her heart swelling with a warm sense of belonging. One of the children noticed her and waved, and she waved back, her laughter mingling with theirs as she joined in their quiet game for a few moments. The lantern light bathed their movements in gold, and the lake beside them seemed to capture every ripple, reflecting their tiny, glowing silhouettes in perfect harmony. Lena felt a comforting sense of connection, realizing that even in the quiet, the village was alive with gentle, shared moments. As the sky deepened into twilight, Lena wandered farther, noticing her own reflection in the water beside the lanterns. It was still and calm, yet somehow shimmered differently than the other reflections. She tilted her head, curious, and saw the subtle dance of colors around her mirrored image, as if the lake were highlighting the quiet magic in her own heart. A soft breeze stirred, carrying a gentle melody that seemed to drift from somewhere. Unseen, it was not loud nor insistent, but a calming tune wrapping around the village like a silken ribbon. Lena's ears perked at the delicate notes, and she felt a soft pull toward the sound, her footsteps following it as naturally as a leaf drifting along a stream. The melody led her to the old clock tower, a tall, proud structure at the edge of the village, its stone walls bathed in the warm lantern glow. The door creaked softly as she pushed it open, revealing a narrow staircase winding upward. Lena climbed slowly, her hand brushing the smooth wooden railing, the faint scent of aged timber and stone rising with each step. The melody seemed to follow her, growing ever so slightly in clarity, filling her senses with calm curiosity. At the top, she discovered a small, hidden chamber. Its walls were lined with shelves of old books and papers, and scattered across a table were maps and sketches of Hallstatt through the centuries. Lena's eyes widened with wonder as she ran her fingers lightly over the fragile parchment, imagining the artists and villagers who had captured their home's quiet beauty long ago. Each sketch seemed to hum softly with life, the careful strokes and gentle colors echoing the calm rhythm of the village. She traced the curves of the rooftops, the angles of the docks, and the arches of the bridges, noticing how each generation had preserved the gentle heartbeat of Hallstatt through their art. The melody that had led her here seemed to soften, almost as if it were sighing in contentment at her discovery. Peering through the tower's arched window, Lena looked down at the lake. Every lantern from the docks and streets was perfectly mirrored in the still water, creating a glowing twin of the village floating softly on its surface. She watched as the reflections twinkled and shimmered, the golden light stretching and bending with the gentle movement of the lake. For a long moment, she simply breathed, letting the calm embrace of the village and the lake settle into her chest. It was as though time had slowed, every movement deliberate, every sound gentle, every reflection a whisper of quiet magic. A soft rustle behind her caught her attention, and she turned to see the old clockkeeper, a gentle man with hair like silver, threads and eyes soft with kindness, peering at her from the doorway. "Ah, Lena," he said, his voice low and smooth, carrying no urgency, only gentle warmth. "It is rare for someone your age to notice the small, quiet wonders in this place. The village holds many stories, and sometimes it chooses a careful observer to discover them." Lena smiled shyly, her fingers still brushing the edge of a map. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "The village, it feels alive, but soft, like it's breathing slowly." The clockkeeper nodded, his eyes following hers toward the glowing lake. "Yes," he said, "Hallstatt has a quiet magic. It is not loud or demanding, but it slows the world down, encouraging calm reflection. Those who notice this rhythm find a gentle peace in the everyday. It is in the lanterns, in the water, in the reflections, and in those who take the time to wander slowly and observe." Lena leaned closer to the window again, watching the lantern's reflections ripple slightly. As a soft breeze danced across the lake, the golden lights merged and separated in gentle waves, and the melody of the evening seemed to thread through every movement, wrapping the village in a lullaby of warmth and quiet wonder. She imagined the generations of villagers who had come before, who had walked the same streets, watched the same reflections, and felt the same calm rhythm. There was a deep, comforting continuity in knowing that life here had always moved gently, softly, deliberately. The melody seemed to drift down with her as she descended the staircase, guiding her footsteps back toward the streets. The children at the docks had quieted now, but their laughter lingered faintly in the air, mingling with the soft call of evening birds. Lena walked slowly, noticing every subtle shimmer of light, every reflection in the windows, every gentle curve of shadow along the walls. Even the distant mountains seemed to lean softly toward the village, embracing it in their quiet presence. She paused at the edge of the lake, watching as the lanterns stretched their glow across the water. Each light seemed to hum softly with the rhythm of life, the reflections moving with a patience that felt comforting and protective. Lena knelt by the water, letting her fingers trail in the smooth, cool surface. Watching the golden waves ripple outward, she felt a gentle sense of connection, as if the lake, the village, and she herself were part of a quiet conversation. Each movement, each reflection, and each ripple speaking softly in a language of calm. The air grew cooler as the evening deepened, wrapping the village in a tender, silken hush. Lena leaned back on the smooth stone edge, pulling her cardigan closer around her shoulders and closing her eyes for a moment, letting the warmth of the lantern light and the melody of the evening fill her senses. She felt her heartbeat slow, to match the gentle rhythm of the village, each inhale and exhale echoing the soft pulse of the lake's reflections. In this quiet, suspended moment, she sensed the deeper magic of Hallstatt, kind that is not seen immediately, but felt slowly, softly, in the unfolding of light, sound, and reflection. When she opened her eyes again, the stars were beginning to peek faintly through the deepening sky, mirrored in the lake as if the heavens themselves had descended to rest upon the water. The lantern's glow seemed even warmer now, reflecting in every ripple, every window, every gentle shadow along the streets. Lena's eyes followed the subtle movement of the reflections, letting the soft patterns of light guide her thoughts into calm, gentle curiosity. The village, the lake, and the mountains formed a perfect, harmonious rhythm, one that whispered of patience, quiet discovery, and the soft joy of noticing the small wonders around her. Slowly, she rose and began a gentle walk along the dock, her steps careful and unhurried, matching the quiet tempo of the village night. Every footfall seemed to leave a faint echo in the still air, blending with the soft lapping of the water and the distant hum of the lanterns. Lena felt as if she were part of something much larger, a living, breathing rhythm that spanned generations, of villagers' reflections in the water and the subtle sway of the trees along the mountainside. Each step deepened her sense of calm, and her mind wandered peacefully, thinking of the stories that the village and lake might share tomorrow. At last, she reached a quiet spot along the shoreline and sat down, letting her legs dangle just above the smooth water. The lantern light shimmered across the lake, and the melody drifted faintly in the breeze, wrapping her in a tender, soothing embrace. Lena leaned back, resting her hands on the smooth stones behind her, and let her thoughts settle into a slow, calm rhythm. The village, with its softly glowing lights, mirrored water, and gentle reflections, felt like a lullaby she could sink into. Every shimmer, every ripple, Every quiet whisper of wind carried the warmth of the day's adventures and the promise of gentle mysteries waiting for tomorrow. As she closed her eyes, Lena imagined the reflections stretching endlessly across the water, the lanterns flickering like stars, the soft melody winding through the village streets, and the mountains standing quietly, protective and still. Her breathing grew slow and even, matching the soft pulse of the lake. In her mind, she wandered through the glowing streets, past the cozy homes, along the mirrored water, feeling a deep sense of belonging and serene curiosity. And as the night deepened, wrapping Hallstatt in its tender, luminous embrace, Lena drifted gently toward sleep. Her dreams cradled in the soft glow of lanterns, the whisper of the lake, and the quiet magic that held the village in calm reflection, ready for whatever wonders tomorrow might bring. The singing fog morning arrived softly over Hallstatt, painting the village in muted shades of silver and pearl. Lena stirred beneath her blanket, feeling the cool, misty air slip through the slightly open window. Outside, the lake lay quiet and mysterious, its surface hidden beneath a soft, singing fog that moved gently across the water like a slow, curling wave. The mist was warm rather than chilly, embracing the shore and the village in a quiet, comforting hush. Lena sat up, her chestnut hair falling across her shoulders as she peered through the fog. It shimmered faintly in the early light, moving and swaying, almost like it had its own life. The world seemed softer, slower, and yet somehow more alive than she had ever seen it. She slipped her feet into her shoes and wrapped her cardigan snugly around her. The air smelled faintly of damp earth, pine needles, and water lilies, each scent mingling in a gentle perfume that made Lena's chest feel calm and her mind alert with curiosity. The fog carried a soft, musical hum, almost imperceptible, curling through the morning air like a lullaby whispered by the lake itself. Lena tilted her head, listening closely. The sound was slow and soothing, rising and falling in delicate waves that seemed to follow her as she stepped onto the shoreline. She felt a quiet thrill as she realized that the fog wasn't just mist, it was a gentle, living melody surrounding her. Carefully, she walked along the edge of the water. Every footstep made a soft impression in the damp soil, leaving tiny ripples that mingled with the lake's reflection. Shadows of the village were just visible through the mist, softened and dreamy, the shapes of houses and trees blurring into gentle brushstrokes of silver and gray. She paused, watching the fog curl around the docks, rising in slow, graceful spirals, wrapping everything in a soft, protective blanket. It was as if the lake and the village had conspired to create a morning that existed outside the rush of time, a space where every moment could linger and breathe. Then she noticed it a swan gliding through the fog. Its white feathers were luminous, catching the faint glimmers of light from the lake, and its reflection shimmered perfectly in the water, dancing in gentle time with the soft hum that filled the morning air. Lena's eyes widened, and she took a careful step closer. The swan did not startle. Instead, it moved gracefully, as if it had been waiting for her. Lena felt the tug of curiosity in her chest, warm and gentle, and she followed the bird as it glided along the shoreline, tracing the curves of the misty lake. Each step revealed more of the fog's quiet magic, the faint glow of dew on blades of grass, the soft outlines of trees, and the distant mountains that seemed to rise and fall in waves with the singing mist. The swan led her along winding paths that Lena had never noticed before. The mist wrapped around the narrow trails like a soft ribbon, softening the world into gentle shapes and muted colors. Wildflowers peeked through the fog in small clusters, their petals trembling in harmony with the subtle melody, each one glowing faintly in delicate shades of pink, lavender, and pale blue. Lena knelt to examine a flower, brushing her fingers lightly over the petals. The fragrance was soft and sweet, like honey and morning dew mixed together. She felt a quiet joy bloom in her chest, gentle and bright, the kind that fills the heart without rushing it, making the world feel endless and kind. The paths wound higher into the slopes, leading Lena into a secluded garden hidden between cliffs. The garden seemed untouched by time, a secret place where the fog flowed freely over flowers, stone paths, and small wooden benches, making everything shimmer in quiet silver. The flowers swayed slightly in rhythm with the fog's song, as if dancing slowly to a melody only they could hear. Lena stood in the center, inhaling the rich scents and feeling the gentle, musical hum vibrate through the air. She laughed softly to herself, the sound blending with the melody of the fog, and felt a warmth spread through her fingers as they brushed the soft, dewy grass. This garden was a secret world, tucked gently between the cliffs, a quiet heart where the village's magic seemed strongest. From the shadows of the garden came a familiar figure, the old herbalist from the mountain path. Her silver hair gleamed faintly in the mist, and her eyes twinkled with the calm knowledge of someone who had spent many quiet years among the hills and rivers. She smiled softly as Lena approached. "Ah, you've found the singing fog," she said, her voice a gentle ripple in the soft morning. Not many notice its song, but it has always been here, in the quiet of Hallstatt. Long ago, villagers would speak of the fog that sings, saying it brings harmony to those who listen. It has a way of settling the heart and opening the mind to gentle wonder. Lena's eyes sparkled with curiosity. It really sings," she whispered, reaching out a hand toward the mist. The fog curled around her fingers like a soft, cool ribbon, embracing her hand in a gentle, almost tickling caress. She pulled back slightly, then smiled. "It feels like a blanket," she said softly. The herbalist nodded. "Yes, it comforts, without force. It teaches patience without words. It asks only that you move slowly, notice carefully, and allow yourself to be present." The fog has always been a friend to those who listen. She motioned toward the flowers. Even the plants sway with its melody. Watch them closely, and you may notice small miracles. Colors that shimmer, petals that glow, reflections that dance in ways the eye cannot usually see. Lena knelt beside a patch of lavender and pale blue blossoms, brushing her fingers lightly over the petals. Each one seemed to ripple with the fog's song, vibrating softly under her touch. The reflection of the garden in a small, hidden pond at the center shimmered like liquid silver, and Lena felt her heartbeat slow to match the calm rhythm around her. The fog whispered in the leaves, brushed across the petals, and coiled gently. Around her ankles, a soft embrace that made her feel part of the garden's quiet harmony. Time drifted slowly, as if it had paused to watch the girl in the singing fog. Birds called faintly from hidden trees, their songs muted but soft and welcoming. The distant mountains stood tall and silent, their slopes dappled with silver mist that glowed faintly in the morning light. Lena wandered from flower to flower, tracing the edge of the pond, her movements slow and deliberate, her senses drinking in the gentle harmony of the moment. Every sound, every shimmer of light, every soft movement of the fog seemed designed to make her heart feel calm and her mind feel at ease. The herbalist followed her quietly, sharing stories in a hushed tone. Long ago, she said softly, people believed the fog could carry memories and dreams. They would walk through it to find peace after a long day, or to think quietly about the people they loved. Some said the fog whispered encouragement to those who needed it most, and that listening closely could help you understand things you might have missed in the rush of life. Lena tilted her head, listening carefully as the fog swirled around her. The musical hum seemed to rise slightly in response, curling through the garden and over the pond, wrapping her in a gentle, invisible blanket. It feels like it knows me, she said, her voice soft, almost reverent, like it's guiding me. The herbalist smiled knowingly. Yes, that is the gift of the singing fog. It responds to those who move slowly, who notice, who care. Every ripple, every swirl, every subtle note is meant to teach patience, calmness, and gentle joy. It is not meant to hurry you or frighten you. It simply is, and in its presence, you may find clarity and peace. Lena closed her eyes for a moment, letting the hum of the fog fill her senses completely. She felt the soft mist swirl around her, cheeks and hands, a gentle, cool warmth that made her feel safe and comforted. Each inhale seemed to carry the melody deeper into her chest, and each exhale released a small sigh of contentment. She felt the connection between herself, the fog, the garden, and the distant lake, as if everything were part of a slow, breathing rhythm that hummed softly in tune with her own heartbeat. After some time, Lena wandered to the edge of the garden, where the mist thinned slightly. Tiny droplets of dew sparkled on the grass and flower petals, catching the light and reflecting it like a sprinkling of stars. The swan was still gliding across a hidden pond, its feathers luminous in the soft glow, its reflection perfectly synchronized with the gentle rhythm of the fog's song. Lena watched quietly, marveling at the serene beauty, letting the peaceful scene settle into her mind like a soft, lingering lullaby. The fog began to lift slowly, curling upward and away from the lake and the village. Trails of sparkling dew lingered behind, catching the last rays of the sun and scattering tiny lights across the garden and pathways. The mist's musical hum faded into a soft, fading echo, leaving a calm quiet that felt like a soft sigh of contentment. Lena watched until the fog disappeared almost entirely, feeling a gentle warmth in her chest and a sense of serene joy she could not fully name. The herbalist knelt beside her, brushing a strand of silver hair from her face. "Remember, Lena," she said softly, "the fog will always return. It is patient, waiting for those who care to listen again." and when it comes, it brings harmony.com and the gentle music of the world. Lena smiled, feeling the magic. The morning settled into her heart. She gathered a few of the glowing flowers she had admired, careful not to disturb the fragile petals, and tucked them gently into her satchel. She rose slowly and turned toward the path leading back to the village. The mountains glowed faintly in the late light, the lake shimmering softly, and the gentle hum of the morning still lingered in her memory. Each step home was measured calm and reflective, as if the mountain and lake had imbued her movements with their quiet rhythm. When she reached the familiar streets of Hallstatt, the village seemed to welcome her back with a quiet, golden glow. Lanterns hung along the docks, flickering softly, and the lake reflected the last traces of the mist, scattering them like tiny stars across the surface. Lena paused, letting her fingers brush the cool water one last time, and felt a subtle, comforting pull toward its quiet center, the same gentle invitation she had felt in the mountain garden. It was a reminder that the lake, the mountains, and the fog were connected in a slow, harmonious rhythm that encouraged observation, reflection, and calm. With a deep breath, Lena walked past the softly glowing homes, the gentle hum of the evening wrapping around her like a blanket. The air smelled faintly of pine, dew, and the warm stones of the streets, carrying the serenity of the mountains with it. She felt her mind settle into a quiet anticipation, curious about what other wonders awaited her in Hallstatt. Subtle magic, the gentle songs, and the calm reflections of a village that moved at the pace of the heart, not the clock. Finally, she reached the small bench by the lake near her home and sat down, letting the warmth of the lanterns and the last whispers of the fog envelop her. She closed her eyes briefly, imagining the swan gliding through the mist, the garden's glowing flowers, and the mountains breathing gently in the distance. Every sound, every reflection, every lingering note of the morning's melody had left a soft imprint on her heart. Lena exhaled slowly, feeling her chest rise and fall in rhythm with the calm, slow pulse of Hallstatt itself, as the sun dipped further behind the mountains, casting long, golden shadows over the lake. Lena felt a gentle, enduring peace settle within her. She knew that the singing fog would return, that the lake would shimmer in quiet whispers, and that the mountains would always hold a secret melody for those who took the time to notice. With her heart full of serenity and her mind alive with gentle curiosity, Lena rose slowly and made her way home, carrying the quiet magic of the morning with her, ready for the day and adventures yet to come, and for the lake's final secret that awaited her tomorrow. Reflections of Time. The late afternoon sun draped Hallstatt in a warm, golden haze, turning the mountains and lake into a tapestry of soft light and shadow. Lena sat beside the water, her knees tucked close to her chest, the gentle breeze brushing her hair against her cheeks. Her grandmother, a steady presence beside her, hummed quietly, a soft melody that blended with the distant lapping of the lake. The air smelled faintly of pine and warm earth, carrying the scent of flowers that had lingered from earlier in the day. It was a calm, slow moment, the kind that stretched time itself, making each second feel like it could hold an entire story. The lake lay perfectly still, its surface like glass, reflecting the sky, the mountains, and the village in exquisite clarity. But today, Lena noticed something different. The reflections were not only of the present. Subtle ripples shifted in ways that seemed almost intentional, forming images that danced across the water's surface. For a brief, delicate moment, she thought she saw a fisherman from long ago, pulling his net with gentle, steady hands. Then, a group of children appeared, laughing quietly as they chased each other across a cobblestone street that shimmered in the lake's reflection. Lanterns swayed softly in a wind Lena could not feel, casting golden light across the mirrored water, as though the village itself were breathing memories into the lake. Lena's eyes widened with quiet wonder. "Grandma, look," she whispered, pointing to the rippling reflections. "It's like the lake." Her grandmother leaned forward, her face serene and wise, and placed a gentle hand on Lena's shoulder. "Yes, Lena," she said softly, "Hallstatt has always held its memories in quiet ways. The lake is more than water. It keeps stories, gentle whispers of lives that have passed through the village, small joys and simple moments. It teaches us patience, reflection, and the wonder of noticing life's small treasures." Lena leaned closer, her fingers tracing faint patterns in the sand beside the lake as she watched images drift across the water. She saw lanterns swinging softly, children's laughter echoing in time with the gentle ripples, and fishermen gliding along the docks in tiny wooden boats. The reflections were never static, always moving slowly, almost breathing, carrying the history of Hallstatt across the water's surface. Lena felt a soft warmth spread through her chest, a feeling that combined calm, curiosity, and an unspoken connection to all who had lived in this quiet village before her. Her grandmother smiled, her eyes reflecting the golden light of the afternoon. "This is the magic of Hallstatt," she said gently. "It does not shout or demand attention. It simply keeps, waits, and shows us what is important if we are willing to notice. Life here moves slowly, teaching us to appreciate the small wonders, the laugh of a child, the sway of a lantern, the quiet pull of the lake. Everything has its place, and every moment holds a story." Lena's gaze lingered on the rippling water, her mind opening to the quiet stories the lake held. She saw a baker sweeping the cobblestones centuries ago, his movements precise yet unhurried. She saw an elder sitting by a window, spinning yarn, her face calm and full of thought. Each reflection was soft and fleeting, like a sigh of memory brushing against the present. Lena realized that the village itself had always moved in harmony with the lake, its magic not in spectacle, but in the quiet unfolding of time, in the gentle weaving of past and present into one serene rhythm. After a long moment, Lena rose and began a slow walk along the shoreline. The village seemed quieter than usual, as if it too had noticed the lake's reflections. Its streets softened under the golden light. She passed neighbors tending small gardens, their movements deliberate and unhurried, smiles gentle and calm. Even the simplest greetings carried a warmth that seemed enhanced by the magic of the lake, as though the reflections of the past had lent patience and serenity to everyone around her. Lena waved softly to an elderly man sweeping leaves, and he nodded, his eyes carrying a quiet understanding, as if he too had glimpsed the village's gentle history. Reflected in the water, her footsteps led her toward the small chapel near the water's edge, its stone walls bathed in the soft glow of the setting sun. Golden light spilled across the windows and doors, painting the walls in warm, shifting hues. The air carried the faint scent of candles, incense, and wildflowers growing nearby, each blending together in a calm, comforting fragrance. Lena paused at the chapel's edge, letting her gaze linger on the reflection in the lake. The water held the chapel perfectly, its golden light mirrored with subtle ripples that made it shimmer as though alive. Birds circled overhead, their calls echoing softly across the surface, and Lena felt a gentle, humming connection between herself, the village, and the past. Tiny ripples spread outward, bending the reflections of the chapel, the birds, and the lanterns into gentle waves of light and color. Lena sang softly along with the birds, her voice blending with the delicate melody of the village's reflections. The notes were quiet, simple, yet they carried the same rhythm as the lake's ripples, as though her voice itself had become part of the water's gentle memory. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the sounds, smells, and golden light enfold her, and felt herself drifting in a state of calm, quiet wonder. Her grandmother knelt beside her, brushing a strand of chestnut hair from Lena's face. "Do you feel it?" she whispered. "This is why we notice. The lake does not simply show the present, it keeps memories alive, showing us the beauty of slow, steady life. It teaches us to pause, to reflect, and to cherish the small joys that make every day meaningful." The villagers you see in the reflections, they lived with patience, kindness, and a quiet awareness. That is the rhythm of this place, and it is yours to learn as well. Lena nodded, her gaze returning to the rippling lake. She saw children chasing each other along cobblestone streets, fishermen gliding through golden waters, lanterns swaying in gentle breezes, and elders sitting quietly by their windows. Every reflection carried a softness, a tender glow, and Lena felt her own heart match the calm tempo of the village. It was a rhythm that seemed to breathe into her chest, slow and steady, leaving her mind clear, her thoughts gentle, and her spirit warm. She rose slowly, brushing her hands across the hem of her cardigan, and walked through the village with deliberate care. Each cobblestone felt smooth beneath her shoes. Each flower along the streets seemed to sway slightly as she passed, and every neighbor's gaze carried a quiet acknowledgement, as though the lake's magic had softened their smiles and lightened their hearts. She paused at familiar doorways, noticing how the reflections of the past seemed to mingle with the present, lending a gentle serenity to the everyday. The village was alive, not in noise or spectacle, but in the calm, careful, and patient rhythm of life itself. Eventually, Lena's steps carried her back toward the chapel. The sun had dipped lower, casting long, rosy shadows across the water. Golden light lingered on the stones, mixing with the soft pinks and lavender of the sky, and the lake reflected every hue with delicate perfection. Birds circled above, their wings stirring faint ripples across the water, and Lena sang softly again, her voice a gentle thread weaving between the past and present. She felt a quiet hum of connection, as though the village, the lake, the mountains, and all the people who had ever lived here were united in a slow, harmonious dance. The reflections shifted as the wind brushed the water, showing fleeting images of villagers walking the streets, children laughing, and lanterns glowing in gentle breezes. Lena watched, enraptured, noticing the way the lake held each moment without haste, carrying the past in a gentle embrace that allowed it to be present without crowding the now. Her grandmother rested a hand lightly on her shoulder, smiling softly as she watched her granddaughter's quiet awe. "You see, Lena," she said, "life is not always about rushing forward. Sometimes the greatest magic is simply noticing. Patience, reflection, and a gentle heart. These are the lessons the lake teaches us, and they are as important as any adventure or treasure." Lena nodded, her eyes glimmering with understanding. She knelt once more by the water, letting her fingers trail across the cool surface, watching as the ripples bent the golden reflections of the chapel and the rosy sky. The images of the past danced lightly in the water, merging seamlessly with the present, and Lena felt a profound sense of belonging, as if she had become part of Hallstatt's gentle story. Every movement, every sound, every shimmer of light carried the soft rhythm of life. Slow and kind, a melody she could hum in her heart long after the sun had set. As the sky deepened into shades of pink, orange, and violet, Lena and her grandmother sat quietly side by side, watching the final moments of the day. The lake mirrored every color perfectly, each ripple bending light and memory into gentle waves. Birds glided across the water's reflection, their movements serene and fluid, and the distant mountains glowed faintly in the soft light, standing guard over the village. Lena rested her chin on her knees, breathing slowly, letting the calm of the reflections seep into her chest and settle in her mind. Finally, the sun dipped below the mountains, leaving Hallstatt in the tender embrace of twilight. The lanterns along the docks flickered gently, mirroring the soft hues of the sky in the water below. Lena rose slowly, brushing her hands across her cardigan and taking a deep, quiet breath. She felt the gentle magic of the lake, the warmth of her grandmother's presence, and the slow, patient rhythm of the village wrap around her like a soft blanket. The reflections had taught her something quiet but profound, that life's beauty could be found not only in what was happening now, but in the gentle memory of all that had come before, woven seamlessly into the present. With one last glance at the shimmering lake, Lena began her slow walk home, each step measured, unhurried, and thoughtful. She carried the warmth of the reflections in her heart, the calm of the village in her mind, and a quiet anticipation for the final evening of her magical journey. The lake's whispers lingered faintly in her ears. The lantern's glow mirrored softly in her eyes, and the memory of the village's gentle rhythm hummed steadily within her. She knew that tomorrow she would discover the final secret of Hallstatt. But for now, she allowed herself to simply exist in the soft, serene world around her, every moment unfolding like a delicate, golden story. The village that fell asleep. Night settled softly over Hallstatt, draping the village in a quiet golden glow that seemed to hum with its own gentle rhythm. The sky above deepened into shades of indigo and violet, flecked with the first delicate stars of the evening. The mountains surrounding the village stood like silent guardians, their dark silhouettes softened by the lingering traces of twilight. Lena walked slowly along the docks, her shoes making soft impressions on the smooth wooden planks. Each step was deliberate, unhurried, as though the night itself had asked her to move in quiet harmony with the world around her. Her reflection rippled slightly in the still water, merging with the lantern light that twinkled like a scattering of tiny stars. The lanterns hanging along the streets and docks were alight, their warm glow mirrored in the lake's calm surface. Each reflection seemed to shimmer with a gentle extra warmth, as if the water itself were breathing life into the scene, holding the village in a dreamlike embrace. Lena paused at the edge of the dock, letting her hands brush the smooth railing, and took a deep, slow breath. The air carried the faint scent of pine, soft earth, and the distant fragrance of evening flowers, each blending together into a calm perfume that made her chest feel light and her mind serene. She tilted her head slightly and listened. The lake was almost silent, except for the soft lap of water against the shore and a subtle, comforting rustle of wind weaving through the trees. Her eyes drifted, taking in the softly glowing homes, the quiet streets, and the gentle outline of the mountains. Every reflection she saw in the lake was just a touch more vivid than the real scene, more luminous, more perfect, as though the water were capturing the essence of Hallstatt in its gentle memory. The lantern's golden light rippled faintly with each tiny movement, and she imagined that each ripple held 1,000 stories, 1,000 quiet moments from the lives that had passed through the village. The reflection of a small window caught her attention. She could almost see an old baker sweeping the floor centuries ago, smiling at a child standing in the doorway. The moment frozen yet alive on the lake's mirrored surface. Lena took a careful step closer to the water and saw movement near the shore. The swan she had followed through the fog and the hidden garden earlier in her journey was there, resting gracefully on the edge of the lake. Its white feathers glowed faintly under the moonlight, and its reflection shimmered in perfect symmetry, blending seamlessly with the water's calm glow. The bird looked at her with quiet, understanding eyes, and Lena felt a wave of calm pass through her chest. She hummed softly, a gentle tune that matched the rhythm of the night, and the swan lifted its head slightly, tilting it as if to listen. Before settling back in the stillness, the soft melody of her own hum seemed to mingle with the quiet sounds of the village, the distant creak of a wooden shutter, the soft flutter of leaves in the gentle night wind, and the faint lap of water against the docks. Lena closed her eyes for a moment, letting the calm wash over her. She could feel the slow heartbeat of Hallstatt beneath her feet, a rhythm as steady and patient as the mountains that cradled the village. Each breath she took became a part of this quiet pulse, her chest rising and falling in time with the gentle flow of the lake, the swaying of the lanterns, and the hushed movements of night creatures stirring softly in the shadows. After a while, her grandmother appeared quietly beside her, her presence calm and comforting. Her silver hair caught the lantern light, and her eyes held the same soft wisdom Lena had always admired. She wore a long, warm shawl that rustled faintly with each step, and her voice was gentle, almost a whisper as she spoke. "It is peaceful tonight," she said, her words floating into the air like a soft breeze. "The village has settled, and the lake holds it in its gentle memory. Look closely, Lena. You will see more than the reflection of houses and trees. You will see the heartbeat of Hallstatt itself." Lena leaned closer to the water, her eyes wide with quiet wonder. The reflections shimmered, showing not only the present but subtle hints of the past, faint silhouettes of villagers walking home, lanterns swinging gently in invisible hands, children playing in cobblestone streets, and fishermen rowing tiny boats across the lake centuries ago. Each reflection seemed to pulse with a soft life of its own, more vivid than reality, as though the water remembered every detail with a kind of loving patience. Lena felt her chest swell with warmth. The village was alive in the quietest, gentlest way, and she was a part of it, witnessing the magic without rush or distraction together. Lena and her grandmother walked slowly along the docks, their footsteps soft on the wooden boards. The lanterns twinkled above and below them, the lake mirroring each light in golden symmetry. Her grandmother pointed quietly toward a cluster of reflections near the village chapel, where the water seemed to capture faint, moving images of villagers from long ago, carrying baskets of bread, tending gardens, or speaking with neighbors. "This is why Hallstatt feels different," her grandmother murmured. "It teaches us to move slowly, to observe carefully, and to feel the rhythm of life. The village has always held its memories, keeping them safe in the lake's reflection, so that each moment past, present, and future can be appreciated gently." Lena's fingers trailed across the smooth edge of the dock as she gazed at the lake, tracing the faint ripple patterns that bent and shaped the reflections like tiny, moving brushstrokes. She hummed again softly, letting her voice blend with the quiet night. The melody felt as though it was being carried across time, joining the distant echoes of the villagers' movements reflected in the water. The swan shifted its weight, feathers glinting in the soft lantern light, and Lena felt a strange but comforting sense of companionship in its silent presence. Everything in the village, from the swan to the flickering lanterns, the gently lapping water, and the mountains standing silent in the distance, seemed to exist in perfect harmony. The night deepened, and the village lights glowed more warmly, reflected perfectly in the lake, as if the water itself were cradling the village in a soft, luminous embrace. Lena noticed that even the small details, the curling smoke from chimneys, the soft sway of tree branches, the faint movement of the water around the swan were slightly more vivid in the reflection than in reality. It was as though the lake held the essence of Hallstatt in a dreamlike form, capturing its heart and spirit in quiet, patient perfection. Lena felt a sense of belonging and serenity that stretched through her entire being, and she knew, with a calm certainty, that this was the village's greatest gift, a place where life, memory, and reflection merged seamlessly into gentle magic. Her grandmother lowered herself onto a nearby bench, motioning for Lena to sit beside her. They watched the water together, sharing whispers and soft stories of Hallstatt's past. The conversation was light and slow, more a gentle sharing of observations than a hurried exchange. Lena spoke softly about the images she saw: the children laughing, the fishermen rowing, the lanterns swinging in invisible hands. Her grandmother nodded, offering a quiet smile and subtle confirmations that each reflection was a gift, a piece of the village's memory preserved in the still, patient lake. The swan remained nearby, resting silently on the water's edge, its reflection perfectly mirrored in the calm surface. Lena observed its movements, noting how each slight shift in feathers or head created gentle ripples that traveled across the lake, bending the reflections of homes, lanterns, and trees ever so slightly. The subtle rhythm of these ripples matched the slow, deliberate pace of the village, and Lena felt her own breathing synchronize with it. Each inhale and exhale was a note in the quiet symphony of Hallstatt, each heartbeat a gentle echo of the village's own steady pulse. Slowly, Lena rose and walked to the water's edge, kneeling down and letting her hands hover just above the surface. She felt a deep, calming connection to the lake, sensing the gentle magic that held the village together. Every reflection, every ripple, every shimmer of lantern light seemed to carry the memory of countless quiet moments, the laughter of children, the soft greetings of neighbors, the careful work of villagers tending gardens or boats, and the patient passing of generations. The lake was more than water. It was a cradle for the village's soul, a soft, enduring presence that reminded all who noticed to slow down, observe, and cherish the quiet rhythm of life. As the night deepened further, Lena lay down carefully on a soft patch of grass near the dock, pulling her cardigan closer around her shoulders. Her grandmother settled nearby, and together they watched the water, listening to the subtle hum of life in the village, the faint ripple of water, the whisper of wind in the trees, and the quiet, almost imperceptible heartbeat of Hallstatt itself. The lanterns above and their reflections below glimmered like stars, holding the village in a soft, golden glow. Lena felt the slow rhythm of the village wrap around her, calming every thought and filling her chest with a sense of peace so deep it seemed to stretch beyond the night sky, past the mountains and into the distant reaches of memory. Her eyelids grew heavy, and she let herself sink fully into the soft grass, her hands resting on her chest as if to hold the village's heartbeat within her. She imagined the swan gliding through reflections, the lanterns twinkling like gentle stars, the houses holding memories of laughter and care, and the lake quietly keeping it all safe. Her breathing grew slow and steady, matching the rhythm of the water and the gentle sway of the lanterns. Every ripple, every reflection, every soft sound seemed to whisper a lullaby just for her, a song of calm and belonging that would carry her gently into dreams. As Lena drifted further, the lake shimmered faintly, reflecting the village, the mountains, and the night sky in an endless, peaceful mirror. Her grandmother hummed softly, a comforting melody that mingled with the faint lapping of water. Lena felt herself floating in the quiet harmony of Hallstatt, a world where the present, past, and gentle magic of memory were one, where time slowed to a patient, serene pace. The village, the lake, the mountains, and all the whispered stories of its people embraced her, holding her in a soft, luminous cocoon of calm. Finally, the stars sparkled overhead, mirrored in the lake's gentle surface, and Lena's soft breathing mingled with the quiet ripple of water. Her mind grew still, her heart steady, and she let herself drift fully into dreams. In her sleep, the village glowed, the mountains stood protective and quiet, and the lake held every reflection with gentle, eternal care. Hallstatt, the village that fell asleep in its reflection, dreamed on peaceful, calm, and everlasting. And now, the village of Hallstatt sleeps peacefully, bathed in gentle light and quiet reflections. The lake holds every moment softly, as if time itself has slowed for rest. Breathe in the calm and let your heart settle with the rhythm of night. Remember, each gentle moment here is yours to carry into your dreams. Until next time, sleep softly and let whispers of the night guide you home.